Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to explain to you all about my new home server and maybe get some ideas on how to build one just like it. Stay tuned. So the leading question here, guys, is why would you bother to build a home server at all when you can buy a NAS drive? Now, NAS drives are very good at what they do, and they are coming down in price and going up in functionality. In fact, I had one for a number of years. It was a Synology DS412 Plus, and for a long time it did everything I needed it to do. But as time goes by, I found that it wasn't doing everything I needed it to do anymore, and the only solution was to build myself a home server. Now within YouTube land, there seems to be three different trains of thought on how you can build a home server. The first, if you're a very popular YouTuber and you're organizing a lot of data, is to speak to Linus and he'll hook you up with a storinator from 45 drives. But that's not practical for everyone, and it is an excessively expensive way of doing what we're planning to do. The next way to do it, which I see a lot and seems to have a great deal of value for a lot of people, is to build a mini ITX based system, which are generally very small and do what most people need them to do, which is store files and transmit them around your network. But the problem with this approach is it doesn't have a great deal of scalability and it won't grow with you as your requirements grow. The last type of system I've seen on YouTube is people buying enterprise class hardware that's a couple of generations old and repurposing it as home servers. Now, while this might seem a really cost-effective way of doing this, it did concern me that one, these solutions are generally very loud because they tend to operate in server racks in data centers and not in living room environments. And the other concern was that over time, this too as a solution might be difficult to support, as it would be difficult to get hold of third-party spares for that specific ecosystem. So the design I've chosen to go with instead is basically a normal home PC. It's built with normal home PC parts. It looks a lot like a home PC, and for all intents and purposes it is a home PC, but one that is controlled with software to be more of a home server function. Now let's talk about hardware. For the case, I decided to go with an Antec P101 Silent for a number of reasons. One, as the name would suggest, is designed to run silently, which is important because this server is going to sit just over there in my living room. The last thing I need is the fans whirring up and down when it's under heavy load, causing us disruption while we're trying to enjoy a movie. Secondly, it has a large assortment of options for storage. It comes with 8 3.5-inch drive bays, it comes with an optical drive bay, and it has spacings for 2 2.5-inch drives on the back of the motherboard tray, which should be enough to grow this system as my requirements increase. It also supports a full eATX motherboard, and although I'm only using a standard ATX motherboard in this case, it's nice to know that I could expand in the future. Lastly, this case comes with 3 120mm fans at the front and a 140mm fan at the back to keep the air flowing through the case. Now this might not seem important for a machine that's only designed to work in the background and never really going to be doing anything too extraneous, but with the insulation that's provided on both sides of the case and at the front, it's important that we have a good flow of air through to keep the temperatures down. In terms of CPU, I decided to go with an AMD processor because, let's be honest, AMD still wins out when it comes to cost per performance. Initially, I decided to go with a Athlon 200 GE processor, but when I actually installed it in the system, I found that the system was just a little bit sluggish when it was doing some labor-intensive stuff like media transcoding. So in the end, I decided to upgrade to the Ryzen 3200G, which is about twice as powerful depending on which benchmark you look at, and it gives me an all-round better experience in terms of the responsiveness of the system when I'm trying to do different things with it. Now I paired this processor with a MSI B450 Gaming Plus motherboard. Now clearly I didn't buy this motherboard because it has gaming in the title. I bought it because it was the cheapest one that fitted my use case, and what I wanted was a number of PCI Express slots to expand into as the system grows with me, and I wanted the ability to add as many hard disks as I could to the system without having to worry about adding an additional RAID card. Now this motherboard has 6 SATA ports on it, and it has a number of PCI Express slots as well that can allow me to add extra cards as I see fit. Now I do have plans for this system to install something like a TV capture card to allow me to distribute TV around the house at a later date, and it's nice to know that I can also add a RAID array card at a later date if I need to put even more disks into this system. In terms of memory, I decided to go with a Corsair Dominator set. It's 2 8GB chips, which allows the system to run in dual channel memory mode to give me the peak performance that I need. Now I could have gone with an 8 gig set, but I decided to go with 16 because in the future I'm hoping to use this machine to transcode media up to 4K, and it will just help to have extra RAM in the system at that point. For the boot drive on this system, I decided to go with a 240 gig SSD that I had laying around in a desk drawer. Honestly, I don't even know who makes this drive. It doesn't have any labels on it. It's just one that I had laying around. Now the argument could be made that you could go with something like an NVMe M.2 drive, but ultimately I don't think you're going to gain that much performance, but you would gain a lot more in terms of cost. Now for my mass storage, I decided to go with the drives that I'd taken out of my NAS drive, which are just Seagate desktop class drives. In future, I would like to upgrade these to some NAS specific drives like the Western Digital Red range. They're designed for 24-hour running and they have a longer mean time before failure than standard desktop drives, but for now these will be fine. I've also decided to include an optical drive into this build. It's a Blu-ray drive that I pulled out of an old machine. The argument could be made that this isn't needed. I'm certainly not going to be needing it on day one, but I have spotted a few software packages around that will allow me to automatically rip media from CDs or Blu-rays, and it will just drop the appropriate files into my folder structure and allow me to move them around so they're indexed properly by my software. So in terms of software for this build, guys, most people would use Unraid or FreeNAS for a build like this, and they're both really good pieces of software, and I plan on doing some further videos on them in the future. But for this build, I decided to use Ubuntu Server because it just gave me a little bit more flexibility in how I use the system, and there were a few more applications available that I wanted to use that weren't available on Unraid or on FreeNAS. The first software package that I'm going to be using is Plex, which I'm going to use to pipe my media around my home network and further afield when I'm traveling. It's a really good piece of software. If you've not heard of it, I suggest you check it out. I'll put a link in the video description. The second piece of software I wanted to use is Nextcloud, which again is a really popular piece of software, and it's basically a lot like OneDrive or Dropbox, but the data is stored, instead of being on their servers, it's stored on your machine locally, and then all of your devices that you have the software installed on. So it's basically your own private cloud setup, and that really appealed to me because as much as I like using services like Dropbox and OneDrive, I like the idea that I'm in control of my data, and for things like my university data, I want it to be installed on something that I control and not on someone else's PC. Another piece of software I'm using is Transmission, which I'm going to use to do all my downloads. Now I download an awful lot of software packages that I use for my videos and that I use in my professional life. And it's a bit of a pain when our internet slows down to a crawl during the day because I'm downloading them. So it'd be nice to schedule those for overnight, which I'm going to do via Transmission.
Hi guys, I've quickly paused myself because I realised that I hadn't explained I'd also be using this as a standard file server, i.e. mapping some drives within Windows and dragging and dropping files around. So yeah, completely forgot that bit while I was recording. Sorry about that, guys.
So the question is, guys, am I happy with this system? And in one word, the answer is yes, absolutely. Okay, that's 2 words. Yes, I am really happy with this system. It does exactly what I need it to do at the moment, and it's a lot snappier than my old NAS drive. Obviously it's a bit bigger, and obviously it's a little bit noisier, even with the silent case, but it's doing exactly what I need it to do, and I love the flexibility that it gives me in being able to add extra software packages and extra roles over time. I've already decided that I will be putting a TV capture card into this system, which is going to help me to distribute TV around my house and even take on some DVR functionality via the Plex app. I'll also be adding a 10 gigabit network card at a later date to increase the speed at which I can access the data that's held on the server. And I'm also looking at adding a specific RAID array controller card so that I don't have to use software RAID that's built into Ubuntu to manage my data. And it's also going to allow me to add more drives to the system and have much more capacity overall. Guys, I hope this video has been useful to you. If it has, please let me know in the comments below, and if it hasn't, please let me know in the comments below. I'll try and get back to any comments you do leave. If you've got any suggestions about how I might have done things differently with this build, again, please let me know. I'm all for having some collaboration and some back and forth in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and please consider subscribing. I will be covering off in subsequent videos how I do some of the software things with this server build in particular. And you can click just over here at this point to subscribe to the channel, and please make sure you click that notification bell as well so you get notifications of all my videos. Thanks for watching, guys.